because it gets to just kind of sweep in under the radar, you know?
And it's like...
It's not as blatantly obvious as being a Nazi is, but Marxism
yeah, and it's like, the road to hell is paved on good intentions.
That's the thing. It's like the horrors of the 20th century were all in the name of utopia, right? Like,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Great thing for like Chinese people. Oh, we'll lift y'all out of poverty. We'll smash the feudal system. We'll all be living like brothers and sisters. A chicken in every pot. This sounds pretty fucking good.
It sounds great.
On paper, it was awesome. But
that's the thing with it. It sounds great, but it doesn't work. It's never worked. If there was anything to it, it would work. But every time it's implemented, it just results in fucking catastrophe.
But like once again, too, like just to humanize, I guess, the contemporary state of where like that particular country is at, and too, it's like once again, it's a thing of ignorance because it's like for the Chinese populace in general, like our great grandparents remembered a dynastic rule.
Yeah,
and like. They remember mass famines. Like, there would be a famine in every single province in China for, like, their lifetime, as far as they can remember, and as far as, like, their great-great-grandfathers and grandmothers could remember. And it's like, like, the flip side to that totalitarian state in the mindset and the collective zeitgeist of that people is, like, oh my god, like, a famine? Not enough? Like, and they're sick of it because it's been like that for thousands of years, and, like, that's the best that they've ever had. But once again, it's like this thing of perspective too. It's like, and they're coming out of like that totalitarian thing, but like they don't even care about giving up some of that, like some of those liberties because like they have a perspective of that other side, which is more terrifying than what is happening now. And once again, it's a question of perspective. And I feel like in the West, it's just this whole society. It's like that's lost.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of compassion. There's not a lot of real deep research.
Real deep compassion.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, because like a lot of people, it's like I talk to them, it's like, oh yeah, like why would you, how could you even live in a place like that? And it's like, well, their flip side to that is very different from our conception of what a flip side is here.
Yeah. Well, man, it's crazy because, kind of changing gears, I guess, a bit, but back to, you mentioned like the human discovery of the future. Like we're able to understand. It's like, what was more important, us figuring out that there is future that we are going to experience, or us discovering fire or tools? It's like our discovery of the future is crazy, and then barbaric as it was when we started implementing sacrifices, like what came with it was the notion that like you can bargain with the future if you act in a certain way now, you can kill a virgin at midnight and it's gonna rain next harvest or something. Like,
I mean, at the end of the day, we are still like fucking apes with AK-47s and M16s at the end of the day. But
it's like, well, nowadays we are more abstract with it, where it's like, oh, well, maybe I could sacrifice, drinking a little bit, and then my future will be better. It's like you can. It's a give and take, negotiative kind of thing.
Yeah,
and it's fucking. So my point being, just to wrap up, my point was. Not only am I like so beyond grateful that I was born in a place like Canada and didn't have to swim across an ocean on a basketball or anything to get here, was that I'm also just like left without words just at the sheer fact that I was born as a human. Plain and simple. The fact that I can one of the things that boggles my mind is like when I'm on the roof or doing something, work related like that, just looking at a problem. So I'm looking at this like actual manifesting problem in the face, and then my mind is able to abstract out like scenario A, what would this solution look like? Scenario B, what would this solution look like? Scenario C, what would this solution look like?
Yeah.
I can conjure up all these hypothetical solutions, imagine how it would go, and to the degree that I can account for as many variables as possible, and then play them out like simulations in my mind. See, like, oh no, that would hit a brick wall right there. That one's stupid. This one would hit a brick wall further down. It was better, but blah, blah. Eventually I can figure, scenario D, that is the most optimal solution. I present it to my coworkers, and maybe they edit it a little bit or agree or whatever, and then we go and physically transform reality into the solution.
But it all started in your mind, though, right? And that's the crazy... And I was like, I remember I read that thing in the National Geographic, and I was like, word. I was like, that is like the truth, though. And it's like, how the fuck would, like, you know, that cave person been able to realize, like, whoa, man, if I, like, scale this concept of, like, a rolling wheel, I can, like, scale this idea. What happens if I put it on a thing that I stand on? Wouldn't I be able to go quicker? And it's like, but, like, the buddy probably thought of this, and then, like, tried and trial and error, and probably did exactly what you did with the roofing thing, pitched his idea to another bunch of cave people that were like, oh, fuck, that's a really great way of doing shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, they swapped ideas, but, like, he had to have had, or she had to have had, like, that idea in, like, their head, and, like, you play around with it there first, and that's where everything materializes from. And on that point, once again, changing gears a little bit too, I was never a big fan of, like, things like, oh god, what was it called again? You know, it's like where you think of it and it, like, materializes kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
In a strange way. I forgot what that's called.
People talk about that as law of attraction.
Law of attraction.
I think the ideas about law of attraction are, like, a little too simple. Because, like, that thing happens, but it's not like you just sit there and meditate and then
no.
But like the phenomenon happens. Like synchronicity. Jung talked a lot about synchronicity. Terence McKenna talked about it a lot. It's like, anyway, so
yeah, cool. No, I think it's real though. Like, I really do.
It does happen.
And like it's one of those things too. It's like, once again, like, you can't just, like, sit there and eat a loaf of bread and it's like that's it. And you just think about it. It doesn't just come to you that way. I mean, like, if you're doing anything with, like, purpose and you have a goal in mind, and it's like, if you can think about it, it's like it will kind of, like, the pieces will fall into play. Yeah. And I think it's because it's like you're tempering your mind to look for those opportunities too.
Well, yeah, this is something that I learned from Jordan Peterson, his psychology. And he has a deep understanding of neurochemistry too, and actual physical brain science, because he studied it a lot. One of the things that he figured out, or maybe a myriad of psychologists figured this out, but Peterson was one who taught it to me, was that your mind doesn't see objects. It doesn't. You don't perceive the world as just objects. You have a goal, and then your perception makes the world manifest to you as either tools to get you closer to the goal, or obstacles that get in your way, and everything else is irrelevant. It's tuned out. Yeah. And then it turns out that part of your brain that charters your progress to that highly valued goal you have, you know, maybe that inner calling of your soul that you have to go in a certain direction, as you see yourself moving in that direction, that's what regulates your positive emotion in your brain, neurochemically speaking. Like, your serotonin and your dopaminergic responses are regulated by the fact that your brain sees you going in a direction that you value. 100%. And it's the same, like, cocaine works on those same circuits. So it literally gives you the high of achieving a valued goal when you, like, snort cocaine. And he makes a funny point of, like, although it's dark funny, you know, the question isn't, why does anyone do cocaine? The question is, why isn't everyone high as fuck on cocaine all the time? But
no, I've never been a big fan of any kind of drugs or hallucinogens, though, honestly. No, I've never been a big hard drug user, honestly.
Not even any weed or anything like that?
Well, like, I've smoked a bit of pot here and there. I've had my day where I was, like, doing it, like, every day. But no, I can't really say that, like, I've ever really... Yeah, I've never really gained anything from it. I might have tried something way back in the day, but it was like, didn't really do anything for me, honestly. I think you're probably much more experienced in that whole field. I'm like as white bread as they come when it comes to freaking drugs and alcohol.
I've done a lot of psychedelics in particular, like that kind of brand of drugs. I've had fucking experiences on mushrooms, for example. I've mostly done mushrooms that just sheer and utter absurdity and ridiculousness, just, like, you know. And it's interesting because speaking of going into uncomfortable experiences and growing as a result, it's like sometimes when the giant, like, man made of leaves that's crawling towards you from a hole in the ceiling, a portal in the ceiling more rather, and talking to you telepathically and going like, hey man, you want to, like, come hang out in the ceiling with me? And, like, it's just like, that's a fucking thing I experienced. I mean, I know I was on hallucinogenic psychedelic fungus the entire time. But, I mean, your subjective experience in the moment was, there's a fucking man made of leaves crawling out of a portal in the ceiling. And so, what's my point?
Wasn't comfortable.
It's fucking, it completely destroys reality. It's like, and then you come back and it's just like, vroom, you know, things reattain their kind of static structure.
Yeah, so like
and
that's
so. Yeah, sorry.
That was my big question to you. Is like, you know, I've never really done a lot of that stuff, and like, I don't even get the analogy of like, you know, why isn't everybody doing cocaine? Because like, I've never done fucking cocaine before.
I did cocaine once.
Never did any of that stuff before.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know what? Because they say, and I believe in this with marijuana. It's like a value changing drug after you do it a little.
Yeah, I think marijuana. I mean, from a psychometric point of view, it's one of the big 5 personality traits that all have a rather neatly mappable relationship to actual brain chemistry. But one of them is openness, which is like breaks down into creativity and openness to experience or ideas. And I think marijuana increases the level to which people are open to like new ideas and new experiences.
And 100%, because it's like I feel like my whole relationship with marijuana now is literally like I'll just go home after work on like Friday. If I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be doing this right now. Might go home at like the end of the month, end of the week, and just like have a little bit of a puff. Like I won't even toke a whole joint to myself. I'm not that greedy.
Yeah, man. The whole joint to yourself can be a wild time.
Oh man, yeah, like that's just too much.
Yeah.
You know, I just have like it's like what George Carlin said. It's like, you know, just a couple of puffs and like it's go time, you know, and like I'm rejuvenated. And it's like I take months off of it sometimes from doing this almost ritualistic way of smoking weed now, and it's like I can feel like my stress levels going up, and like I'm shorter with people, and it's like it's terrible. Like I don't feel as at ease.
Yeah.
And like even like the music kind of loses like it feels more like a burden if like I just smoke a little bit here and there. It's like I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah. I feel like marijuana must also increase people in trait agreeableness too. Like, because agreeable people are more compassionate, and also, you know, less confrontational.
I would say that's 100% up my alley. However, what I wanted to ask,
it's not obvious, by the way, that those are necessarily good things, but that's just what it does, you know.
I would agree with that 100%. Yeah. But with LSD, I guess, because it is a much more extreme kind of high. Like, what did you feel kind of like? Because you mentioned too, it's like it kind of broke down like what is reality, and like once you come and you snap back, and it's like I'm back in kind of this reality, and I've just kind of been teleported almost to like this weird
foreign land,
like like everything's fiddle faddle foo, and it's just like you come back and it's like, well, like what
do I do with that?
Yeah, what do you take away from that, and like how does that modify your way of thinking, maybe your brain chemistry? I don't know, like.
Well, that's a huge question. So psychedelics, I'll just give a disclaimer. It's like I don't think I have any real idea exactly what's going on. Like I don't know, man. I seem to keep doing it. It seems to be of benefit. I tend to do it, you know, roughly 3 to 4 times a year. I'll plan like a psychedelic trip. Sometimes I do it more. Sometimes I do it less. I think at one point I just went a whole year without, since I had started kind of practicing with them. I got introduced to them through like the guys in Ford Unto Dawn, Dylan and all them, and it was always kind of this like spiritual sacrament, ceremonious kind of thing that we would plan together with people we trusted with our lives in a safe place we knew was going to be okay, and we did it with the intention of, it's like the hero's journey into the unknown to slay the dragon and get the gold that's there and come back to the villagers and spread the wealth throughout, like that there's something of immeasurable value in the chaos, and that the hero like voluntarily takes a trip there and tries to attain that thing of value. I didn't have that kind of articulate idea of it at all back then, but that's kind of the idea, was to get something of.
But it's why you return.
Yeah, well, it's like,
and explore it.
Yeah, that's why we went in. And so I went in with this really open attitude. I think I've always been really high in openness, and these guys were talking to me about it in a way that just I'd never heard people talk about it like before. I started listening to a lot of Joe Rogan. I started listening to a lot of Terence McKenna. I started reading books like DMT, The Spirit Molecule, and just researching the hell out of it. I confirmed enough for myself that it was relatively harmless and safe, and if I went about it in this proper way, like I listened to Terence McKenna talk about the right way to do it and all this kind of stuff, and so I went into it, and it was my second trip in particular where because my whole first trip was